What is up, everyone? JD here. Hope you're all doing well today. Today I'm going to be bringing you my review for the Benchmade Tagged Out. Let's go ahead and get into it. What we'll be doing today is we're going to go through the knife specs, we'll do some size comparisons, and then we'll go ahead and jump into my thoughts and impressions. The Tagged Out has a 3.5-inch 154 cm blade, 4.63-inch handles with Grivery scales. Overall length is 8.13 inches and claimed weight is 2.1 ounces. Did I say overall weight? I hope I said overall length, but the overall, or the claimed weight, sorry, is 2.1 ounces. Let's check that out. Coming in right on the money at 2.1 ounces. This is definitely a fuller sized featherweight offering from Benchmade. Let me go ahead and bring out some knives for size comparisons. First, we'll bring out the Demko AD 20.5. Let me move these up just a little bit. I realized I'm a little low on the screen for these size comparisons, and lining them up on the pivot. And then we'll go ahead and bring out the Spyderco Shaman. So as you can see, this is a larger knife than what you normally see from Benchmade in their lighter weight category. Let me move the Demko out of the way. We'll go ahead and bring out its little brother, the Benchmade Bug Out. And we'll bring out the SIG K320 made by Hogue. And as you can see, this is actually longer than the Hogue. Let me line that pivot up a little better. And longer than the Bug Out, which that's not as obvious to point out, but I did want to mention that it is actually bigger than the SIG K320 as far as length is concerned. For my budget friends out there, here it is against the Elementum 2 and the Civivi Praxis. And the Praxis is actually going to be a little bit longer than the Tagged Out. Let's go ahead and move the, well, actually this is a full-size knife. Let's go ahead and compare it thickness wise to the Praxis. You can see this is going to be much thinner than the Praxis. Actually, it's going to be just a little bit thinner than the Praxis. I thought it was going to be thinner because it feels so slender. I think the shadow, or the shadows are playing, there we go, are playing with, the lighting is playing with my camera a little bit. Here it is against the other full-size knife. This is going to be against the Shaman. So hopefully there you can see it is a much thinner knife than the Shaman. And then we'll go ahead and bring it up against the Bug Out with the Flytanium scales. And as you can see, the Bug Out is just a little bit thinner. Let me go ahead and jump into my thoughts and impressions for the Benchmade Tagged Out. So I'm going to talk first about ergos. Because this knife is larger and I have larger hands, it has plenty of space for all fingers, 4 fingers to land on. They did throw a hint of contouring in there to help with the thickness, but it does feel like it's just a little bit too thin for the hand. What I do like here is they put in specific spots little patterns jimping here for your hands to grip onto, and that does help a lot. You also have some jimping right here where the front finger lands, and the contours help kind of lock it in place. So it does feel secure, just feels really thin. I think this would really benefit from a set of contoured scales from Flytanium, like the Lotus scales, which add just a little bit more beef to the Bug Out. I think this would really benefit from some aftermarket scales. You do have limited standoffs to help keep the weight down. You do have a reversible deep carry pocket clip, and Benchmade pocket clips are done very well. They're not very hot or pokey. They do get the knife down in the pocket really far as well. They did black out all the hardware on here, which I think is nice, and they did a really good job with the stonewash on here, but the edge from the factory is a little on the shallow side. I'd like to have seen it laid back just a little bit more, but it is a very thin blade, very slicey, glides right through the material. I mean, this thing is a slicer without a doubt. Access to the lock bar is okay. I do feel like the scales are a little close there for me, but because they are plenty grippy as far as the studs for the lock bar, I'm able to actuate that with no issues whatsoever. Now, this one here moves around a lot, and I'm going to try my best to bring it here to where you can see it. Going to be kind of hard to do, but right now it is favoring the pocket clip side, and I'm hoping that's coming through, but it just moves way too much. And let me see, I've been fidgeting with it. It was a little loose. Yeah, it's come loose again. It's really hard to balance this one versus my bug out, as opposed to where that sweet spot is on where you are able to basically manipulate it fairly easy with absolutely no or minimal play. This has a lot of play that's built into it. And when I'm testing it, I can feel the entire chassis flexing. I think Benchmade would have been better off in this instance to either offer some G10 or to take those steel liners all the way through to the other end of the knife. Right now, I know it's hard to see, but it just has the plastic, and then it has the steel right here where the lock bar, where the crossbar lock is. So you have a little bit of a steel reinforcement. I think it would have been better off to take the liners all the way through. It just feels really bendy. The whole thing feels like it's moving around when you're holding it. It makes me very nervous to actually handle this particular knife. Now, the blade steel was very interesting at 154 cm. Normally you're getting S30V from Benchmade. I feel like 154 cm is a step down from the S30V that you usually see coming on their base model knives. I like S30V a little bit better than I do 154 cm, but that is a personal preference. I just think S30V holds an edge longer, and it's still very easy to sharpen, whereas I think 154 cm is a little bit more well-rounded. The knife, to me, it's not a very attractive knife. That's actually why I waited for this knife to come in at a lower price on the secondary market, because I really didn't want to spend my money on this knife. I don't like the blade angle and the way that it goes down, although I know that is good for skinning, gaming. I prefer more so the shape that you find on the bug out. I don't know if they just didn't want to make it a bigger bug out, but I honestly think the bug out with the Lotus scales from Flytanium is a better knife overall. It's a good size. It has a good size blade, a lot of cutting edge. This one here, it ramps down, so when you're actually holding it, you're going down into the game, and then you have the tip here for all of the detailed cuts and things that you need to do for that. But just overall, the knife has been a little bit disappointing to me. I was hoping that it would actually prove me wrong. The knife comes in at $180. I looked on Blade HQ before doing this review. That's a lot of money Benchmade to be offering. I know it's a USA made blade, but the build quality is not that great. The pivot has backed out, and it's been extremely difficult to try to find a sweet spot with this one where it won't back out and it'll stay in. The pivot will stay in. I've been battling with it since I picked it up. Now, I will say the last owner took it apart and they put the taller washers in there to try to eliminate that. So I don't know if that's part of the problem or what's going on, but it has really been an issue for me. The plastic, I think you can replace that with G10 with a minimal cost difference. Wow, that moved a lot. Or you could go full steel liners and not have any issues. No blade play, but I have no action either. I might have moved it too much. It's a little bit harder to tell with the stubby. Sometimes you got to be careful with that. No blade play. Yeah, it's getting a little bit better. Let's see. And maybe I just need to break the washers in because they are aftermarket. Yeah, no blade play. And with a lot of wrist, you can get it closed, but you got to hold that lock down a little bit longer. So I might leave it like that and try to break it in a little bit more. But as I was saying, I just think Benchmade needs to move away from the Gryvery, or if the Gryvery is cheaper and they like the material better, they just need to go ahead and go full steel liners so that it reinforces the plastic so it doesn't feel so cheap when you're holding it. I have no issues with the 154 cm, but I think they could have offered this knife at about 160 bucks, $20 less, and it would have been a more acceptable price. I just don't know if this would have tickled anyone's fancy, in my opinion. The other thing that I have a complaint about with the larger hands is I wish they would have come down a little bit further with the opening hole. I have to climb way up on the knife, and I find that I'm starting to slip out when I'm trying to reverse flick it. And that to me is just not acceptable, because it's a bigger hand, it's a bigger knife, meant for larger hands, meant for gaming, meant for being used with gloves. So I just feel like that's a total miss. They did not do a very good job with the opening hole on that knife. $180, what else could you get? You could get the Gryvery AD 20.5. If you don't like the shark's foot, you can get the clip point, and that's going to be good for gaming as well. You can get that with decent steel, AUS 10A, which I would say is just slightly worse than the 154 CM, but you're going to get steel liners, you're going to get Gryvery on top of that, and it's going to feel more solid because it has those steel liners behind that. But I really would, if you want it for EDC, recommend that you get the polymer handled SIG K320 made by Hogue. It's a superior knife. It has better ergonomics. The polymer handles are so robust, and the steel liner inside supports all the way back to here. I know you can't see inside, of the pocket clip's kind of keeping me from going. So the steel liner goes back here. It's a diamond shape. So even with the polymer handle, it's going to feel really, really solid, and you're going to be able to get that with the S30V that I prefer over the 154 CM personally, for around 130. And if you wait and look when they're running a sale, like around President's Day and stuff like that, you'll be able to save and probably get it for 120 to 125 bucks. So you're getting, in my opinion, a better knife with a better edge, good heat treat. I think a lot of people sleep on Hogues, but they do a really good job, and that K320 really is a sweet, sweet model. I'm not going to make too many other alternative recommendations, just because this is a really thin, lightweight knife, and the Hogue does weigh a little bit more. So does the AD 20.5 that I mentioned. But really, for the money, I would steer you, even get something made by Artisan, because they love to make thin knives as well. That is something that you could look at. They have the Scoria, I think, that's probably close to thinness like this. It gives you that full handle and full size knife at a thin profile at a price like sub $80 price. But to me, this is just a pass. I would recommend the Bug Out even if you insisted on getting a Benchmade. This to me is just a hard pass. I think there's too many quirks and too many issues with this particular one. Just a little disappointing for me personally, and it's just so thin that trying to hold it is just uncomfortable, which is what I really didn't like about the Bug Out. That's why I say I think a set of Lotus scales would really help this. Hopefully you enjoyed my review of the Tagged Out. I'm sure people that are into gaming and hunting probably really love this knife. It's a great blade shape for that, and it's a lightweight carry. You're not going to really feel it in your gear too much. You can throw it in your pack or wherever, pocket. It's going to do well for that. Thanks to everyone out there that regularly leaves the likes and the comments and is subscribed. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you all have a fantastic week, and until next time, peace.